Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Dr. Rhonda M. Lawson, and I'm back with a new episode of the Horizons Author Lounge. And I'm super excited because I love doing this show. I really do. And I love providing a platform for up-and-coming authors. But what I really love is having two local authors on the show. I actually have two DMV authors at the same time on the show, and I'm super excited. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on my first guest, Miss Sharon Burton. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Dr. Rhonda?
I'm wonderful. I'm serious. I really enjoy this show and just getting to know people. And we were talking before the show started, and I love it. Not only are you local to the DMV, but we're basically neighbors. You're like right down the street.
Yeah, and that's very unusual. That's very unusual. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. But it's I'm really happy to be on this program. And as I shared with you earlier, I've been watching a lot of your episodes, and I've been following you because we have at least one person in common. And,
Yes.
I admire how you have been working with your publishing program and company. And, definitely really needed. I had you on my list from when I knew I was going to publish this book. I said, yeah, I got to reach out to her. So thank you for having me on the show. And we're Divine Nine, fellow Divine Niners. So that's a
Love
good
that
thing.
too.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, let's do this.
So, well, tell us about Spark Your Creative Coaching.
Well, Spark Your Creative Coaching came about. I had been, in addition to my day job, professional life, I had been working for a number of, since 2004. Wow. Gosh, 20 years. Oh my goodness. In the DMV area, I've been working with artists, visual artists originally. I did a lot of curating, and I had a blog on art shows and things that were going on. And I started doing a lot of art curating and did a lot of exhibitions in the DMV and art related activities. And although I did enjoy that side of things, the fine arts side of life, I realized around 2015 I wanted to do something different. And one of the things was creativity coaching. And it was relatively new. And I remember reading a lot about it and like, oh, I think I might want to try that. And I think a lot of it is because I am an artist myself. I'm a visual artist, been an artist all my life. And I found myself doing a lot of things later in life. I'm a late bloomer in a lot of ways. I was an artist, but I did not pursue my own art until my late 30s. I am in my mid 50s now. I'm a proud Gen Xer. I always say that.
Yes, I love Gen X.
Yeah,
I'm a Gen X.
we got to represent. So I had a lot of artists that were asking me advice about showing their art and staying creative. And I found myself really connecting more with artists than collectors, to be quite frank. I had worked a lot with art collectors, but being an artist and understanding, how to get yourself out there and to stay motivated to do your work really appealed to me. So I became a certified creativity coach in 2018. And, since then I've been working with artists, but I also work with authors and writers. And what my job is to help you stay inspired, to stay unblocked, to stay motivated to do your best work, as well as working with people that may have not had the opportunity to engage in create their creativity because of life. We went to college, or we pursued, the military or whatever. We tried to do what we had to do to stay functional and be able to, take care of our families. And now, you're at a point where you want to revisit maybe a creative passion that you had when you were younger and just couldn't do it because you were lifing, right?
Yes, of
So,
course.
my job and what I love to do is work with people that are at midlife and beyond, to help them stay inspired and to help them launch their creative life, something that they've always wanted to do. So I do workshops. I'm a teaching artist at a few places. And I do a lot of virtual things, webinars, that sort of thing. And then, of course, I launched my book, Creative Sparks, as a way to reach out even more. I believe in taking more of a mindful approach to things. So I infuse a lot of like meditation and, different kinds of modalities, not just straight coaching kinds of
Mhm.
stuff, but, breathing. I am a certified meditation guide. I'm also a yoga nidra, which a lot of people are not as familiar with, but it's not so much the
I was
poses, but
about to
it's
ask you what that was.
yeah, it's not so much, it's not about poses. It's really about staying still and listening to someone
Oh,
actually do what they call a body scan. So, it's a meditative technique
okay.
that's not as popular as the other types of yoga, but it does have yoga roots and it's ancient and all that good stuff. But it's an excellent way to relax and unblock. And so, I try to infuse those types of modalities as well as writing exercises and journaling. I'm a big on daily journaling because I think it's important to clear your head in the mornings. I'm big on what they call morning pages. And I don't know if you're familiar with Julia Cameron's work of The Artist's Way. That was a popular book, maybe about 25 years ago, but it stays popular, particularly with artists and creative types and writers. And she talks about doing this morning practice where you basically journal like longhand for like 3 pages and every morning. And it's supposed to help you kind of get the cobwebs out, all the stuff that's in our heads, and just get it on paper. So you start the day kind of with a clear slate. And so I'm big on that. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, you say a little bit, but that was actually a lot. I like what it is that you're doing, and I was wondering what is the average age of the people who sign up with you, because it seems like this is people like, for instance, older people who maybe they're looking for a different path now,
Hmm. Hmm.
or maybe they're looking for something a little bit different. They've been working all of their lives and now they want to do something creative because they still want to make an impact. And so that's kind of who I picture when I think of your client. But is that kind of off base?
No, that's right on schedule. Most of my clients are about 45 and above.
Yeah.
Um, I've been working primarily with a creative aging program for the last year and a half, with an outfit called Artworks Now, which is based in Hyattsville, Maryland, in the
Okay.
DMV area. And those clients, those folks tend to be, well, that program is designed for 55 and over. So I had to wait till I was 55 to actually do to do the start, facilitate the workshop. But anyway, and a lot of them are retired. I would say most of them are in their early to mid 60s, with a few people hitting 70 and 80 and even close to 80. And it's been such a joy working with them. They're my favorite group to work with because a lot of them have retired or about to retire, and they are really trying to get into their art. And it's really about developing their confidence and feeling good about, indulging in this. Some of them have been artists and writers for, throughout their lives, and some of them are just getting into it. So, it's been a joy working with them. But that's my favorite group to work with. But for the most part, with most of my workshops, they've been mostly people over 40. So I would
Okay.
say maybe mid 40s to early 60s.
Yeah, that's kind of what I pictured because I think at, that's the age group, their contribution has been through work and family. And now the family the children have gotten older, they're on their own now. They've retired. And
Mhm.
so they're at this point where they're asking, now what?
Yeah, and a lot of them, but there's still so many things. I was presenting at a major conference, a craft conference in California for the first time. And we were talking, one of two workshops I was doing was really focusing on unblocking and staying unblocked as a creative person. But even with that age group, a lot of them are still trying to take care of older parents or other, like maybe siblings or, things of that nature. And it's kind of interesting because there's still a lot of challenges, even though you might have retired and you might have, there's still, family members that they have responsibilities for. Um, Talking with them a lot about things such as grief is really big, because you're seeing your peers that have passed or, other people that are close to you. That is something, particularly after COVID, I started hearing more about with this, our population, the Gen Xers and, sort of the younger baby boomers, some of the things that they've been going through. And it's not necessarily COVID, but just a lot of death and a lot of, life changes. And so, even though this is a good time as far as not being able to have to deal with the day-to-day work, there's other things that are emerging in a lot of my clients' lives. And, part of the reason why I wrote the book was not only to help them, kind of push people into, all right, just do your creative passion, no matter what it is, but also use it also as
Yeah.
a way of self-care, you know. So that's kind of how I approach my practice and how I got into writing the book.
So I was going to ask you now, with Spark Your Creative, um, is that not just about writing? Do you have people who maybe want to pursue their creativity in other forms?
Oh yeah, yeah. My practice isn't about just writing or art. It's whatever you want to do. Even if I had somebody talk to me about doing podcasting because that's a form of creativity, and they were having a creative block with that. And it was related to the quote unquote traditional creativity that she did at a younger age, but because she had to deal with some criticism of her creative work, it just blocked her from anything creative, whether it was a podcast, whether it was, whatever. And so we had to work with her to identify. I had to help her identify, okay, where did this come from? And how can we change that messaging in your head about your ability to create? One of the things that I talk about, and what this book is about writing affirmations to help change those messages that you say that you have in your head. So if I say, oh, I'm not really an artist, I just, or I may be critical, like I can't, I'm not really an artist. I just doodle sometimes, and you know, and there's no way I could ever get into an exhibition, blah, blah, blah. It's really taking those messages that you have, is it that someone told you that at a younger age and you just believed it? And then looking at, well, what do you believe about yourself? What do you feel that you believe? That your capability to be an artist or to be a writer or whatever. And then writing out an affirmation that says, I am a writer that reaches, people with positive messages, and actually writing something that is in the present tense, like don't write, I'm gonna be a writer. No, I am right now. I am a writer.
Exactly. If you're writing, you're a writer.
Yeah, writing that I am a writer. You got that. Yeah. Yeah. And people don't understand that when you write it in the present tense, that helps change your thinking pattern. One of the things I've done a lot of work in the past couple of years, matter of fact, with affirmations, and how there's so much of my negative thinking. Because as human beings, we tend to think a little bit more towards the negative, towards and we're socialized, where there's so many things telling us what's wrong with us or what you got to do, and infusing fear, and my thing is now, I write affirmations every morning. When I do those morning pages, when I do my journaling, I start off with 7. I choose 7 affirmations, or one affirmation. I write it 7 times. I don't know about the word 7. It's probably, there's probably some spiritual aspect to that, but I just find myself doing that. And it's usually something that I'm feeling some kind of way about. Let's say I'm feeling a little uncomfortable about some things in my, that day. And, I just say, I'm co-creating with God to manifest, my book. I did a lot of affirmations on my book because I felt like an imposter, even though I'm an artist, even though I've worked with artists.
Imposter syndrome is real. Real. We think that, we start to tell ourselves that everybody else is better than we are, that we're not as good as we think we are. And it takes a lot of work to overcome that self thing.
And that's when affirmations come into play, because when you find a way to establish yourself and to tell yourself something opposite of what the imposter syndrome is telling you, it's something that's different than what your inner critic is telling you about your creativity, that helps move you to a more positive place. And I say in the book, of course, this is not hocus pocus. This is not end all be all, because there may be other things that are contributing to how you're feeling about yourself. But it's a start. It's something that's accessible, that's easy. So what I did was I just took 21 affirmations that I wrote out, And I address the common things that a lot of us as creatives deal with, whether it's dealing with imposter syndrome or inner critic, whether it's dealing with grief, whether it's dealing with, you know, a lot of different life changes. I'm going to take a look at the book for a minute. Welcome, and even incorporating creativity into your life. You know, a lot of people say, "Well, I just don't have the time." And even
Yeah,
at midlife, when we have more control of our time than we think we do. That's one of the common things I hear is, "I just don't have the time," and blah blah blah. And I break down and say, okay, write an affirmation that says, I have the time for my creativity. My creativity is a priority. It's important to me.
oh, I
Um,
like that. Yeah, that
mhm.
is something that we do need to do. We are so. I think mostly as Black women, we are so programmed to think that when we put ourselves first, that we're being selfish and that we're not giving, and so we put everything ahead of us. And then even when we want to do something for ourselves, something in our mind tells us that it's frivolous.
And that's the thing.
That we
Because
need to be doing that.
Yeah, and that's why I talk about creativity as a form of self-care. I have a chapter about that because we think about, massages and getting the nails done and going to some
Yes.
fancy place, but we don't talk about many people do a creative, activity as a way to relax, but we don't think of it as this is still a part of your self-care. If
Mm,
you like doing art and those types of things, and I talk about, it doesn't have to be a commercial thing. It doesn't have to be something you got to sell, right? It can be something that just relaxes you. You talk about doodling. People always talk about that. I've been doodling all my life,
mm,
in meetings and everything else. And a lot of times it relaxes me. Sometimes doodling helps you concentrate more on what's going on,
yeah.
without the
I would,
distractions of
I would
whatever.
even venture to say, and as you were talking, that it hit me. You know, sometimes we start to feel guilty when we put ourselves first, and then people will make sideways comments like, "Oh, it must be nice,"
Yeah,
or "Oh, I don't know. I mean, I have to pay bills, and instead of that, I can't be wasting money on that." And or they'll say something like, "Oh, you better than me." And when they make comments like that, all of a sudden, sometimes it pops in our head. Well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or maybe I should be using my money for something else instead of taking care of myself. And then we continue to put ourselves further and further on the back burner, and all of a sudden we're pouring from an empty cup.
absolutely. I have a chapter about that too, about how we need to put ourselves and
Yes.
make our creative passions as a priority. And I even challenge people in the chapter dealing with a lot of that, because a lot of people say, well, I got this and that and stuff to do. Right. And I'm like, okay, let's just break it down. What does your week really look like? Well, I got to go and do this and I got to do that. And I'm like, okay, who else is in the home with you? What can be delegated? What
Yes.
can be talked about? If you can talk to your husband or the kids or whoever's in the home and say, look, Tuesday nights from 6 to 9, 6 to 8, I'm going to do my creative practice. If it's crocheting, knitting in front of the TV, or just having music on and zoning out and doing my work,
If you
right? My
feel like just watching TV and doing nothing, that is on you, boo.
you know, but negotiate with your household to schedule whatever you need to do. It doesn't have to be. Who else can do some of this stuff that you feel that you have to do? You
Right.
know, and once you do that, you let people know, hey, this is my time to create. This is my time to work on my knitting, to work on whatever. And I'm making this a priority. This is part of how I'm going to take care of myself, you know, and stick to that and really work with people. Now, it cannot always happen, you know, especially if you're in a caregiving situation. It may be unpredictable. But, you know, in situations where you have a little bit more control, you can do that. And I even talk about, you know, well, I got to take the kids to basketball practice. Why don't you just bring the stuff out there? Especially depending on what it is. You know, if you're writing, take the laptop. They got Wi-Fi, go ahead and do it while you're watching your son or daughter do their thing. You know, it does not
Yes.
have to be, you know, I think people feel I got to be in this space and I got to do this. Well, you know, there's ways to incorporate creativity into your life. And so I talk a lot about that. And I talk about writing affirmations to help you kind of move through some of these challenges. And I say things like, you know, when I started writing the book, I was dealing a lot with the imposter syndrome because I never wrote a book before. I mean, that was just like, whoa, you know, how I'm an artist. I'm a, you know, I even write a little poetry, but I never wrote a book before. So, you know, how's that going to work? You know, and I mean, I talk about naysayers. I had somebody tell me when I
Mm.
first announced I was going to write a book and this is how I was going to do it. And I remember a person I considered a friend at the time, you know, she kind of looked at me and it was weird because out of all the people I had shared it with, she was the only one that had this negative reaction. Like, well, what do you know about that? And I was like, you know, why would you write
Wow.
something? And I'm like, well, why are you assuming I don't know what I'm writing about? You know,
Mm.
it was a very it was a very interesting response. And you know, it sometimes when you get those responses, you start thinking, like you said, well, maybe I am, you know, maybe this is stupid, or you know, what's the deal? There's some interesting comments right on the, yeah, you know, and so I questioned myself for a minute. I had kind of backed off it for a minute because I'm like, well, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, you know, and I
That's how that works.
that's how it works. And next thing you know, you don't do anything, and people are comfortable with you moving, you know, staying the same. You know, I
Mm.
think, you know, yes, she was seeing through my eye, through her eyes. Yes, she doubted herself because she was in a, and that's what I even challenge people in the book, you know, take a look at who's talking. What is it that they
Right.
have going on? Because a lot of times they're usually people that want to do what you're doing, they don't know how, and their fear or their doubts or their feelings kind of, you know, get you know, transposed to you, and you have to decide whether you're going to own that or not, you know. And I decided I'm not owning that. And you know, granted, she was going through some life changes. She had moved back home, and you know, there was a lot of things going on, and that was not my story though. You
Right.
know,
Right.
I had to get back to my story before, you know, and get clear. So it's been I also talk about some of the social movements, you know. A lot of people want to get involved with some of the things that are going on globally and locally, or you know, nationally. And I'm like, okay, you know, how can you use your creativity, your creative passions to contribute to these things? You know, I talk also about you know, how do you share your work with the world? You know, some people are scared to exhibit their work, or they don't know how to go about it, or you know, just like this was very scary to me. I mean, you know, I'm like, okay, is people going to
Well,
trash
I
this book?
totally can't tell that this was scary to you because you are killing it right now.
Oh, believe me. I mean, I think I delayed it. I started the writing process in 2018. COVID happened. Um, and it actually is looking, the whole book ended up looking different than what I originally started. But I knew that with after COVID, I said, people don't need anything heavy. They need something inspirational and light. And, you know, I went that way. You have to read the leaves, you got to read the room. Um, but yeah, it there was a part of me that was like, oh gosh, if I get this out here, people gonna trash it. But I've been getting a lot of good feedback about it. So
Wonderful.
and I think a lot of people, particularly in our age group, were happy to see something that addresses them, because we just, you know, Gen X and all we just can't catch a break. We came up at we came up at a time that wasn't being creative wasn't as chic as it is now. Now everybody's creative and everybody telling,
Right.
you want to go to art school, you go to art. I know when I was coming up in the late 80s, coming out of high school, nobody was encouraging me to go to art school. It was more
Right.
like business, healthcare, engineering, all that kind of stuff. So, a lot of us sort of consumed ourselves into being productive citizens, and we had to suppress our artistic side. I went to
Right.
college 4 years. A lot of folks didn't even know I was an artist because that side I was going to school for business. I got a master's in
Exactly.
public administration, and once I became, as I could say, employable, the whole art thing started back up again. I talk about that in the book, passing art. I was in Atlanta at the time, Atlanta School of Art, which is now part of Savannah School of Art. I'd passed that, and something would tell me, you need to go and enroll into some classes. And I was like, I'm over 30. What am I going to do? I'm going to be the oldest up in there. And that's not going to be good. And am I really an artist? Or is that something that's been in my head? And so that's why this book was important, because you can be whatever you want to be, no matter what. And yes, it doesn't mean that, you're going to, if you're a singer, for example, doesn't mean that you're going to cut a record or receive a Grammy. We're not talking about going beyond our capabilities, but we're talking about, yes, give yourself permission to be the creative person that you've always wanted to be. And a lot of times it may not look like what you thought.
Right.
My secret passion, what my secret creative passion was? To be a songwriter and producer. I really
Mm.
wanted to. And a matter of fact, I wanted to be, at one point, a lead singer in a rock band. I grew up in upstate New York, so
But
that's what
Sharon,
I.
I'm loving the conversation, but unfortunately, we've actually
Oh man!
gone overtime a little bit.
Oh my
So,
goodness! I'm so sorry about that.
well, it is okay. But I did put your Instagram in the chat. It's on the screen right now. Please, 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 everyone, please follow Miss Sharon. Go to Instagram.com/sparkyourcreative, because she drops these types of jewels all the time on her page. So I want you guys to follow her. Make sure that you get the book Creative Sparks. And if you have a passion, whatever it is, make sure that you are following it. Do not suppress your passion because of what you
Absolutely.
think makes sense. You can still do what you think makes sense, but always pursue your passion.
Yes, that's the bottom line. Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.
And thank you for being here. You have a wonderful evening. God bless you. And once again, thank you for sharing with us. So I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Have a great night. We will talk soon.
All right. Bye.
All right, y'all. That was Sharon Burton, author of Creative Sparks. And we are about to bring on our next guest, my girl, Miss Stefmarie Cole. I don't know. I feel like she and I have known each other forever. It may not have actually been forever, but I feel like we've known each other forever. And I had the pleasure of seeing her on stage I guess like a couple months ago it was. And I believe your color was yellow. Okay, you can go ahead and unmute though.
I thought I was unmuted. Yes, it was yellow at the Atlas Festival. We all had different colors,
Yeah.
and the colors represented our personal journeys. And so, yellow, everyone thinks of yellow as a bright color and everything's nice and sunny, but I shed the light on how light also exposes. It uncovers the
Mm.
ugly things that we have to face. And so that was my perspective. And it turned out really nice, I think, the whole production.
It did. I
Yeah.
really, first of all, I really enjoyed the entire show, but I was really excited because I had seen Nerd the Poet perform a couple of times, but I think I only gotten to see you one other time when you did his event at in Silver Spring, in
Public
downtown
gardens.
Silver Spring.
Yeah.
Yes, public gardens. So I was really excited to see you guys perform, and like I said, you guys killed that show. I wish I could have seen the entire thing, but I did get to see the people I know, which was you and Nerds,
Mhm.
so that was good. But how long have you been doing poetry?
I've been doing poetry for over 20 years.
Wow.
I just really started to do it full time, or rather more often within the last few years, really getting on stages and really getting booked. Before it was just, maybe weddings or funerals or, little things here and there. But once I started to separate myself from the people, places, and things that didn't value me, I started
Mm.
to see my worth. And once I started to see my worth, I naturally gravitated to environments that complemented my journey. I started finding like minded people. I started getting opportunities. And so there's power in letting go of things, because all it's doing is crowding up space for what's meant for you in your life. And so once I did that, left the job of 14 years, left a bad relationship, um, and just started to really see my value. That's when I started getting on stages, getting back in my poetry, writing, and just finding my groove.
Now, I've got to say that that was probably a scary move for you because you said you left the job of 14 years. That's
Mhm.
what, we Gen Xers, we call that stability. You love
Yeah.
stability. To move towards something that is what we Gen Xers and the baby boomers will call a hobby. But you were able to turn that creativity
Hmm.
into something bigger, into a
Hmm.
platform for yourself. So, can you talk a little bit about that process? What gave you the courage to move toward really pursuing your art? We just finished talking with Sharon, who talked about pursuing your creative, spark your creative, but you
Hmm.
actually are living that right now.
Yeah. So what really, I would say, encouraged me was that during COVID, I was in a situation where I wasn't happy. I was in a relationship and we had decided to move in together, like a lot of people did during COVID. And I just wasn't happy with the verbal abuse that I was experiencing. I wasn't happy with being at a job for 14 years that didn't appreciate or value me. And I just got fed up. I just had enough.
Mm.
I just started to understand that there was more to me. And once I decided to finally let go, despite, even though it was unsafe, just let go of it and see what happens, that's when I started focusing on myself. I spent so much time trying to make others happy. How can I serve you? How can I make, you more comfortable? What do you want to watch? Where do you want to go? How can I serve you? But I deserve the same things that I want to give to others. And I just
Mm.
realized one day when I was giving my all and it still seemed like it wasn't enough, I realized that I am enough and I deserve better. And so it just took me to get tired of being bullied, beaten up, and say, you know what? I don't deserve, I cannot choose an emotional bond over my personal peace. Sometimes when you've experienced rejection a lot in life, you've experienced a lot of heartbreak, sometimes you'll keep an emotional bond just to fill that void, right? But I would rather be alone and deal with that emptiness and fill my own void than holding on to an unsafe situation. But it took me time to get there. So once I decided that I was worth it, that's when I was able to actually ask myself, what do I want to do? What makes me happy? And I just naturally started writing again, writing about my pain, writing about what I had been through. And then I just started seeing things, started seeing events. It's like it just started coming to me. And I was like, I need to go here. I need to share my story. I need to share my story about mental illness. I need to share my struggles. Somebody needs to hear this. And then once I started doing that, that's when I started meeting people that supported me, appreciated me, uplifted me, encouraged me. And that's how those opportunities started coming. To be on TV, to headline, to do festivals, all types of things that I never saw myself doing, to write books. So it has been quite a journey.
So let's talk a little bit more about that. First of all, thank you for sharing that. I did not even realize the depth of your story until you just told your story just a second ago. So thank you for sharing that and being so transparent.
Mm-hmm.
But there's probably someone who is pursuing their own art, somebody who is pursuing being a poet or spoken word artist. I think poet is almost too small in certain cases, because when you become a spoken word artist, sometimes reading that poem and hearing that person speak it and deliver it is two totally different experiences. So that's often why I kind of make them two different things. But there's somebody out there who may be pursuing that path. What do you say to that person? What is it that you can tell them that's going to make them want to keep going?
Well, the first thing I would ask them is, what is your why, right? If your why is for the applause, then when the applause dies, so will your passion, right? Because you can't base your purpose off of accolades, or if people are feeling you in the moment. There's a lot of profound people, prolific people who have done amazing things, but during their era, they weren't necessarily appreciated. So you can't do it for what other people think of you. If you're getting all the cheers, if you're trying to be a star, it has to be something that you'll be content with, and it is truly your passion and the purpose behind it. Is it to impact others' lives, to share your story that they can be better, or is it just something fun to do, right? And if it's just a hobby, then that's fine. Whenever you want to hang out and do it. But if this is something where you are truly pursuing your next level, then you have to understand first what your why is. That's the first thing I would tell them. The second thing I would tell them is that other artists, being around other artists is almost like taking a class. You learn how to sharpen your skills. You learn the art of spoken word. And so it is very important to be around community, because you learn the art of performance, when to breathe, when to pause, when to elevate your voice. All of it is intentional. And so you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone and network, right? And make those connections, not just for community, but also for opportunities. You also have to be willing to be vulnerable and bleed on stage, is what I call it. Because the deeper in your vulnerability and transparency you are, the more someone can grow and take from you and be and feel the impact. If you're saying something on the surface, it's not going to be as impactful.
Yeah.
So one of the things that makes a really good poet, it's not all the metaphors and the word plays. That stuff is good. But at the end of the day, it's making people feel something. It's going into the situation and the person saying, you know what? I feel better. This gave me a different perspective. I want to make a difference. I want to change something. Right? That is what you're doing it for. But if it's just something to do for fun or something just to vent, hey, all you got to do is go to open mic, get it off your chest, and continue on with your life.
There you go.
Right. Also, the last thing I'm going to say
Crystal
is...
Go ahead and finish your thought. I had a question come into the chat, but I want to let you finish first.
Yeah, I was going to say the last thing I'm going to say is don't be afraid to get a mentor. There's so much to the artist world, and it's okay to learn from others who are where you want to be. It doesn't even have to be a situation where you're paying all this money, but just someone who's willing to give you advice, how to get into certain spaces, how to network, how to monetize your income, monetize your passion, the places when you get on stage, how to make the best of it. Having a mentor will get you to the next level. If you have the mindset that you've been doing it for a long time and you don't need no help, or you're just starting, but you got this under control, you're only going to go as far as what you already know.
That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, there's so many questions.
Okay.
So here's the first question. It's already on the screen. What was the most important thing you wish you knew sooner in transitioning from hobby to business in your craft?
That if you don't protect your personal time, meaning setting boundaries for yourself, just to do nothing, just to, maybe watch a TV show or whatever, because eventually you get very busy. Eventually it can feel like work. So if you don't prioritize your peace and your time, it will begin to feel like work. It will begin to feel more like work than purpose. So it's very important to prioritize, your personal, whatever you like to do outside of your talent. And also that your talent is not you. Your talent is a vehicle for what you do, but it does not define you. So you may have multiple gifts, right? But your purpose is the true message. Your talent is just the vehicle to get it there. And when you understand that, you will not compare yourself to other people. There's a lot of imposter syndrome that artists go through because they feel like, I'm not like this poet, I can't speak like this, how come I can't, do bars like this person or get this type of engagement? Because you have a unique message for your people, right? And so that unique message for them is all you need to do. You don't have to worry about everyone not liking you. It's not meant for everybody. It's meant for your people who may have gone through what you have gone through, that they may receive what they need to receive. So I would say not to compare myself, to understand my why, and prioritizing my peace.
Wonderful. Now, another question that came in is, have you ever had stage fright? And how did you overcome it?
So you're going to feel that no matter how long you've done it, right? It may be in different layers. But yes, that happens, but you have to do it afraid. You have to embrace it and push through it despite the nerves. Because one thing I've learned is that if you don't believe it, they don't believe it, right? If I'm going on stage and I'm like, and then this happened, and oh my goodness, and da-da-da, they're not going to believe it. I've come to find that it's not necessarily the way the words are put together, but it's the energy and the passion behind it that makes you an excellent spoken word artist. I know spoken word artists that are just super wordsmiths. I mean, they can take something simple, a simple concept, and make it sound so profound. And then I know other spoken word artists who may not necessarily have that, but they have the passion behind it. They have the presence behind it. They have the engagement behind it. They have the showmanship behind it, meaning they're expressing it. They're expressing it with their body. And I've learned that your whole body becomes a part of your art. It becomes a part of your performance. So it's more about the passion versus the skill. Wherever your skill is lacking, that's where passion needs to come into play to make up for that. Because your passion and the message behind the passion is the impact. People get caught up on just the skill and they wonder why they're not reaching the next level. And it's not because they aren't skilled. It's just because they have exalted the talent over the message. If the message isn't there, if the passion isn't there, it doesn't matter how talented you are if you aren't impacting people with your words.
Love it. Love it. Now, the question I wanted to ask you is you talked about how you...
you know, the camera's backwards. I'm like, wait, okay, sorry.
I was like, oh, the bangs. Well, you talked about how you kind of almost have to strip down on stage. Is that a process for you to learn? I mean, did you have to go through a couple of performances before you realized that? And then the first time when you really stripped down in front of an audience, how did that feel? Did you feel like you went too far or you didn't go far enough? Can you describe that process?
Yes, I will try. Sometimes what you write isn't necessarily what you're feeling in the moment. So one of the keys to performance is to put yourself in the moment, in the experience, to feel those emotions, to think back to where you were in that time, in that mindset, in that space. It's almost like acting, right? And it did take time to cultivate that, because when I first really started getting on stages, I thought I was giving it all the passion that it needed. I thought I was giving it all the energy that it needed. And I did my best, but I realized never do a piece that you aren't feeling. Because if you aren't feeling it, then the audience isn't going to feel it. And they can determine if something feels genuine or if it's forced. And there were times where I was forcing it, not realizing it, or where it just didn't come off as authentic. Even though those were my authentic experiences, I was not in the mindset for those experiences. And one of the things that I learned is that I don't have to fit the energy in the room. I was meant to shift the energy in the room. There's so many times when we feel like, okay, everyone's talking about love, or everyone's talking about trauma, or everyone's talking about men or women or whatever, then I need to do something like that. And then you go up there and you talk about something that you're not feeling, and then it doesn't come off right. Stick to what you feel, because if the passion is there, you're going to shift the environment. Once I understood that, it's all about becoming the piece, embodying the emotions and stripping down. I started to realize the power behind words. I started to realize if I'm going to do it, I need to do it right. Now, I will say that I've always been vulnerable. But the first time I knew that it was more than just poetry is when a lady came up to me and said, I've been going through this, and your poem touched me because I needed to hear those words. You know, when someone comes up to you personally and says, crying with tears in their eyes, saying how this piece is helping them to get through something, or your piece touched them in the way where they feel better about themselves, or where they're going to do the work to become a better version of themselves, that's when I realized this isn't just poetry. This is healing. This is ministry. This is, storytelling and impact to change lives. So it isn't easy. It isn't easy, but the first time I really gave my all on a mental illness piece, I was kind of shocked by the responses, because people were just so moved that they had tears in their eyes. And I realized that poetry gave me the space to be free to say those things that may be hard to say outside of poetry, and just to be real with people, because all people want is for you to be real. That's it. Be real, because they may be going through it too. And these are things that people don't talk about. So to hear she's going through it too, or she's been through it and she came out on the other side, then maybe I can do it too.
Love it. Love it. Now you won an award recently. Did you want to talk a bit about that? The WBL hosting competition?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because I was nominated for some awards. I'll be forgetting which ones. Okay. Yes. The WBL competition was really fun. That was for Word Beats and Life hosting competition. It was a great opportunity to network with other curators and creatives. It's a very prestigious award, I think, because they have the competition yearly. Only one person can win it. And I went against one of the top hosts. And sometimes I doubt my hosting abilities. I don't feel like it's my strong suit, but I did pretty well. So it was really great to feel affirmed in the area of hosting.
I love it. I love it. Okay. See, I didn't realize that you were doing hosting. I mean, I knew you were doing a lot of spoken word, and I know you've made some appearances on TV. In fact, I believe you were on Fox 5, about a month or so ago?
I haven't been on Fox 5, but I was on Channel 9, I was on WETA, and I was on DCW 50. Haven't made it on Fox
I was
5.
on DCW 50 too.
Yeah, I was on there once by myself, and then when we did the festival, I reached out to one of my contacts to see if they would be willing to have us all on the show, and they agreed.
So you have really been killing it in these poetry and spoken word streets.
Yeah, I think I'm hearing the feedback. I don't know why.
I don't hear it. So
okay. I'm just gonna keep talking. Opportunities come when you put yourself out there. A lot of people wonder, how are you getting these opportunities? What are you doing? Well, first, I believe in myself, right? And I take risks. I reach out to the TV networks, right? I look for the applications. I look for the places to submit to see if I can make it on these stages. I make myself available. I talk to people. I have conversations. I let them know I am available for booking. It's all about making yourself available for the opportunity, and not being afraid to shake some hands, to send some emails, and to build good relationships. That's what it's all about, building relationships, building that rapport to get to the next level. It's not as difficult as people think, but it's also a matter of where your faith is and if you're willing to take the risk.
Wow, there you go. I wish I could talk with you longer, but our time is up, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But I do want to make sure that, and I know we put your website in the chat, StefmarieCole.com. There it is. It's on the screen right now. So please make sure that you follow her, because I'm telling you, she is all over the place right now. Yes, and we didn't even talk about the books.
I know.
Very quickly, the titles of the books. I see A Sound Mind.
Yeah, and then this one is called Not Freely Given. It's about understanding your self-worth.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I really enjoyed talking with you and getting to know you better. If you ever want to come back to visit, all you have to do is say the word, and you just say you have a standing appointment in the Horizons Author Lounge.
I really appreciate you. This was fun. I appreciate you inviting me on your show. It was amazing. Thank you so much for welcoming me.
And thank you. You have a wonderful evening. God bless you and everything that you do.
All right. You too.
Thank you. All right, y'all. That does it. This is the end of another episode of the Horizons Author Lounge. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did, because I truly did. And if you want to keep riding with us, we are here every Monday. Starting next week, throughout the entire month of June, we will be interviewing all male authors. June is the month of Father's Day. It's also Men's Health Month. So we are going to be talking with all male authors. We're going to be talking about relationships. We're going to be talking about mental health. We're going to be talking about everything that men want to talk about. And, I may be a woman, but, I have a boyfriend. So and I need to know what keeps our men happy and what keeps their mental health going. So I'm looking forward to these conversations. So make sure that you join us every Monday night in the month of June so you can meet these amazing authors. We will be posting a flyer very soon that will show you all of the authors who are going to be highlighted throughout the month. So I want you guys to be a part of that. Also, we did just announce that the Black History Month Literary Weekend is coming back. So if you want to be a part of it, if you would like to be a sponsor, we haven't done the call for authors yet. The call for authors is coming. But if you would like to be a sponsor and you would like to partner with us for this amazing event, the website is on the screen right now. It's also in the chat. We want you guys to be a big part of that, because I'm telling you, it's an amazing weekend. Not only are we highlighting authors, but we are giving scholarships and essay contest prizes. We're visiting schools and impacting our youth. There's so much planned for this coming year, 2025. So we want you all to be a part of it. It's going to be right here in the DMV. And if you want to be a part of it, if you've never been a part of it, you missed out. So make sure that you're a part of it for 2025, because we have some great things in store. So if you would like to partner with us, go to mtwimagesolutions.com/BHM-2025 and find out the information. We have a partnership level for every level. So we want to see you guys there. So that's all we have, guys, for tonight. Thank you once again for joining me. Thank you for supporting the show. Don't forget to join me tomorrow night for Black Authors Matter TV on the National Black Book Festival Facebook page, and then meet me here next week in the Horizons Author Lounge, and we're going to start interviewing all of the men. It's going to be something that you're going to truly enjoy. So that's all we have for tonight, guys. God bless you. Thank you for supporting the show. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.